Welcome to episode 2 of my new NLW podcast. Yes, I'm back. I even today was thinking, am I even going to make one this week? Can I be bothered? And that's not a good start for a new series. So I figured, I'll get on it and I'll try and make this a more consistent thing, especially because a lot of you guys really seem to dig the podcast idea last week. And a lot of you really enjoyed what I had to say. So yeah, just bear in mind that was the pilot episode. I am going to kind of tweak some things going forward, and hopefully I can kind of improve as I go along in terms of podcasting and really just talking for an extended period of time, because obviously, with the videos, there's a lot of chop and changing and script writing, but this is more off the cuff, me just kind of chatting to the microphone and seeing what comes out really. So yeah, very positive response from many of you last week to the podcast. And now I can also announce that if you want to get this podcast ad-free and also a day early, you can subscribe to my Patreon for just $1 a month. My new one of the new things you can get on the Patreon is this podcast, also in audio format. So if you wanted to download it and listen to it on the go, at work, at school, whatever, you can do that. And the link to my Patreon is in the description if you want to sign up for just $1 a month and also get access to a couple of early NLW 24/7 shows. So that option is there. Also, in this podcast, we're going to be talking about wrestling, match and wrestler of the week. Going to give you some NLW updates as well as my thoughts on some of the latest figure news. And at the end of the video, there is also going to be a question of the week, as I, of course, said last week, for you guys to get me in your questions. And again, a great response for that. So many questions to get through. I'll only be doing one a week for right now. So if I don't answer your question in this video, it will be coming in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, thank you all for your questions. I will answer them as I go through these podcasts. But yeah, let's just start off on what I'm working on. So the aim for this Saturday is to finish NLW 101. That's the goal. I want to get it out by the 12th. I think I'm on the right track because this morning, actually, I've been filming a lot of NLW 101. I filmed the street fight this morning. That's the OC versus Orange Cassidy in the APA. And there's also going to be like a backstage element to that. So that's something I'm going to film tomorrow just before work. I've also got a couple of skits in mind that I want to film. As for NLW 24/7, that is going to be returning next Wednesday. So on the 16th with New Year's Revolution. Obviously, a lot of people have joked about the fact that it's no longer the new year, but this is one that I actually planned on releasing in January before my hard drive busted. So instead, I'm releasing it on the 16th of February, and you can see that next week. But I will release the card for that show this week too, as well as an episode of NLW Turbo coming this Thursday. So Turbo returning on this channel, on the NLW Figs channel. The main event of that one's going to be Ricochet versus Shane Strickland, and that's going to be a fun match you won't want to miss. So aside from those videos, there's a couple of stuff I want to do on the NLW Figs channel, such as my favourite Elimination Chamber matches video, which will be coming out this week because obviously the Chamber's coming up in about a week's time. So I'll talk about that in this video as well and what the card for that is looking like so far. And next week I'm going to be uploading my Elimination Chamber predictions. But for now, we'll start off with my... So we've kind of gone what I'm working on. Other things I'm working on, really, I'm just kind of writing the scripts for NLW 101. And I've also been writing a lot more build for the WrestleMania. So at the moment now, I've kind of narrowed it down to a 10-match card. I can't remember if I said it last time, but I've been tweaking that in the past week, and also have like 3 pre-show matches as well that may be like special attractions and things of that nature. Oh, and that's another thing I'm going to be uploading this week. This Wednesday, I'm going to be uploading like a recap video where I go over all of the storylines in NLW just so you're kind of caught up with the characters and what's going on. But yeah, moving on as well to figure news. So I'm going to kind of move this because I did have this later on in the video last week, but I feel like when I'm talking about NLW, it might be more apt to talk about wrestling figures in this kind of segment. So we've got some figure news in that Elite 93 was up for pre-order last week. And as you might have remembered, I said, I'm not going to be getting Elite 93 pre-order in. I need to save my money. Well, fast forward a week later and I've pre-ordered the whole set. So yeah, I'm just going to pick up some overtime at work to pay for it, to be honest. But it is a set that I've been wanting in my collection, really, because, they're all pretty good. And seeing that it's coming out in May, I want to get them as soon as possible to use them in NLW, especially the Seth Rollins and one of the other ones in that set, which I won't go into too much detail about, but there are, multiple figures in that set that I want. So that's why I pre-ordered it. I kind of broke under the pressure, to be honest. I've also got shipping notifications for Unmatched Series 3. That's the Dark Order set. I've seen a lot of people get them already. Hopefully mine comes either today or tomorrow, and I want to add a couple of those guys to NLW, which you might even see this Saturday on NLW 101, so keep your eyes out for that. Hopefully they come before so I can film with them, but that's pretty much all the figure news. I've also received in the post a John Cena and a Randy Savage The Legends series, so those are new additions too, and I got them for a decent price on Wrestling Trader, so pretty happy so far. Other than that, I'm not planning on really pre-ordering anything going forward. Elite 94, the leaked set, the lineup that they chose, I'm not really a big fan of it, so I might just pre-order MSK because I do like the Rascals, and that might be it. As for other pre-orders, I'll most likely pre-order the entirety of Unrivaled Series 9 because that's a whole set that I would like. Other than that, I'm just going to wait for Chris Statlander, Chuck Taylor, and Trent Beretta to come to the UK in that wave. I'm sure I'll find them in the Entertainer at some point. Funny enough as well, this isn't really figure news, but just to kind of round off this segment, I did have a weird dream 2 nights ago where I was in the Entertainer, this toy store, and I was just seeing all of these new AEW figures, and I was like, oh, I just want them all, but I don't know if I can afford it. So what I did, I basically, in my dream, stole them. Not quite stole them. I took them all home and thought, you know what? I'll see how they make me feel. I'll see if they make me happy. And if I don't like them, I'll take them back. And if I do like them, I'll take them back and then pay for them. Not realizing that that's not how retail works in my dream. And then I panicked because I forgot to take them back. And then the toy shop hunted after me and there was a big chase scene. So you can tell what's been on my mind has been pre-ordering figures because it's seeping into my dreams. And also the other day, I actually went into the Entertainer to kind of have a look at what they've got in there. They've still got that Miss Elizabeth from the Then Now Forever set, which I feel like they've had in stock for years now. And other than that, they've got the new wave of AEW Series 7, which is pretty cool. It's just, I've got them all already. There were a couple of basics in there that I was thinking about getting, like the Ember Moon and the Rock one. But at the end of the day, I decided against it just to save some money, Not really want to impulse buy once I'm in the store. But it was cool. Let me know as well if you want to see me do like a toy hunt video. But there aren't that many toy stores here. But I will give it a go because I think it could be a fun little thing to try out. But yeah, just let me know if a toy hunt would be something that you'd be interested in on the off chance that I actually leave the house. But yeah, that's figure news. But what about wrestling news? I'll tell you what the big story this week was. Shane O'Mac no longer with the WWE. It was reported that he's been sent home. And yeah, by far this is the biggest piece of wrestling news as we move on to the wrestling of the week. Yeah, Shane McMahon, funny story. Apparently he got the numbers switched up, or at least there was a mistake with the numbers. He was supposed to come out at 29, but Randy Orton was supposed to come out at 28, but they switched the numbers, and Randy Orton kind of turned to Shane and was like, well, I'm not coming out to Here Comes the Money, so you might as well go out there, which I thought was quite amusing. But yeah, how can you piss so many people off like that, and then just suddenly be gone like that as well? It seems quite strange as well, because Shane McMahon always seems to be the kind of guy who had his head switched on when it came to kind of innovating ideas and things of that nature and putting together some of the better Rumbles that we've seen over the recent couple of years. At least that's what's been reported. And it's just a very strange situation. He's gone now. It was being floated around and rumoured that he might face Seth Rollins at WrestleMania, which would have been pretty ridiculous. The one that stuck out to me was the one rumour that he was going to face Austin Theory, which made the most sense. And yeah, it looks like we're not getting that match anymore, but a very bizarre situation. However, I don't know if you can put the entirety of blame on Shane's shoulders for the Rumble turning out the way it did. It was kind of doomed from the start to have Lesnar win and kind of have a lot of, not jobbers, but just guys that aren't going to win it. Like I said last week, I feel like Drew McIntyre should have been the one to win it, but obviously they've got the plan to push Roman versus Brock for the titles at WrestleMania, so we'll have to see what happens with that. Speaking of part-timers, guess who's back? It's only Bill Goldberg, and we all rejoice. Got nothing against Goldberg personally, but this constant him coming back, being put in the title scene for these Saudi shows and what have you, just seems a bit desperate and ridiculous in my opinion. I don't know who's really paying to see Goldberg. I mean, there must be a market for it if they keep bringing him back, but yeah, I've just no interest in that whatsoever. Him versus Roman, I had a slight bit of interest a couple of years ago, and then that match obviously got cancelled, but they want to do it. They clearly want to push forward with it, and Goldberg and Reigns Elimination Chamber, it's not going to be great, is it? I don't know. I'm quite apathetic towards the product at the moment. I'm not even interested in watching WrestleMania this year. There's just nothing really that sticks out to me. Why would I invest time in the company? I don't know. I don't want to be too negative, I just want to give my honest opinion on things. There is some stuff in the WWE that I like, but at the moment, with NXT now rebranded, it is few and far between. I'm telling you, I don't know. I just hope that they can turn it around in a couple of years, but I'm not too sure. I did see a funny meme of the types of wrestling fan, and one of them was the optimist WWE fan, still reminisces about SmackDown Live 2016, says, the product will get better in time, it's just in a slump, so that's the kind of optimism I have, mixed with, a bit of smarky AEW diehard, which, I don't know, I'm kind of ashamed of, because, oh man, you see some of the AEW fans online, and it's just embarrassing sometimes, to be honest, I enjoy the product still. And we'll talk about AEW briefly as well. We had the CM Punk versus MJF match, which went a lot longer than I was expecting, and it was really good for what it was. And we'll go on to match and wrestler of the week. So I'll choose my match of the week now. By far, it's CM Punk versus MJF. They told a great story throughout. It was in Punk's hometown of Chicago, so they hated everything MJF did. I would say the best match that Punk's had since she came back, at least in my opinion, in terms of the length and the story that was told throughout it. It may have gone a little bit too long, may have been a little bit overindulgent in points, but man, once CM Punk hit that Pepsi plunge, I marked out big time. Seeing, him go back to his roots, and it's still so surreal to see CM Punk in an AEW ring. I thought it was the right result as well to have MJF be the first one to beat CM Punk, especially in his hometown. That's big heat right there. You got to imagine they're going to do a rematch at Revolution where hopefully MJF wins again, because I don't think Punk needs the win. I think he's going to be over regardless. Just a fantastic match. 2 false finishes as well, where you had MJF cheat to win, to choke out Punk, and then the match went another 20 minutes after that. So very impressive by both men, and wrestler of the week probably has to be CM Punk as well. The performance he put on in that match was great. Just seeing him be the CM Punk that we're used to from days past, a decade ago when he was facing Cena and The Rock and all that. Seeing that back, it brought a lot of nostalgia, but the good kind of nostalgia where he's still got it and he can still go, and, putting over MJF like that, I think does wonders for him. And also, I don't think Punk is dragged down by a loss at all at this point, because, he's undefeated. He's proven that he can still go in that ring. And I want to see more from this rivalry. I don't think it's done anywhere near. Hoping that they can do some more matches down the road. But a good match, a great match actually, on what was otherwise a pretty bad Dynamite. Well, not a bad Dynamite. I mean, it had its moments, but I'm telling you, after that Brandi Rhodes segment, probably one of the worst segments I feel like I've seen in wrestling ever. Maybe, I don't know, because it wasn't so bad that it was good. It was just awful, and I had to turn it off afterwards. Why anything involving Brandi is just bad. I don't know. It's really strange, and it really turned me off the product to think that they would put this out and think that people liked it, because AEW usually knows what their audience wants for the most part, and that can be a detriment if you cater to it too much, but I think, I do not want this. This is awful, and it's going to make me want to skip any segment they're in from now on. no interest in seeing Paige Van Zandt versus Brandi, and that as a focal point in the women's stuff is a bit bad. And Dan Lambert as well, I'm kind of over. I'm not too interested in what he's doing. And Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page as well, despite being great wrestlers, it's just a shame that they're kind of stuck with this guy. I think it's doing them a disservice personally, but you never know. And then there's also stuff on the show that I don't like Chris Jericho's recent direction in the mid-card. It's not really clicking with me. I'm not too much of a fan of it. We'll see what happens when Eddie Kingston comes back from injury, whether they continue that stuff with Jericho, but yeah, not enjoying his stuff at the moment. And the women's division as well, seems to be a little bit of a lack of direction at the moment, because you got Britt Baker, but who's going to face her next? I'm not too sure. And there's not really a concrete challenger really for that or the TBS title. So there's a lot of stuff on Dynamite at the moment and Rampage, which I'm just not watching it whatsoever at the moment because nothing really gets progressed on those shows. It's maybe a bit of a holding pattern. It's a bit of a shame, although you can't really complain too much because last week you had that banger of a ladder match and the lights out match, and then this week you've got CM Punk versus MJF. Maybe my expectations are too high because they've had such great shows in the past. I just feel like the shows aren't really clicking at the moment, and I'm hoping that turns around sooner rather than later. And elsewhere in wrestling, again, Impact is not really something that I'm interested in at the moment. The Ring of Honor invasion, though, is quite interesting. I will keep an eye on that, and I will see what happens when Ring of Honor comes back in about 2 months for Supercard of Honor, whether they continue on with shows, a weekly TV show, what have you. That would be something that I'm interested in. And MLW as well has kind of been on my radar with the Azteca stuff that they've been doing, so maybe I'll check that out at some point in the future. But we'll see. And GCW as well, we'll see what kind of cards they're putting on in the near future and whether they're worth a watch as well. So yeah, I guess you could say I'm kind of tired of wrestling at the moment. I've been a bit burnt out on it, and that might be maybe stunting my momentum a little bit for NLW as well. Or maybe it's the opposite, and the fact that wrestling isn't really captivating me right now is something that is actually motivating me to do NLW. Because yeah, sometimes I'll watch wrestling and I'll be kind of disappointed by it, and that'll kind of spur me on to do more filming for NLW. Like I said, I've just been writing and rewriting episodes, I've been planning scripts and things of that nature, and I've also written a whole new schedule. So the new schedule moving forward is going to be on Saturday, you're either going to get an NLW episode, a metal episode, or something related to them, like a Road 2 special or a live event kind of highlights package. And on Mondays, I'm going to start doing these little behind the scenes type videos where you get NLW off the air, so whatever happens when the cameras stop rolling on NLW, and a little bit of a couple of skits here and there, like some experimental stuff. And Wednesday will be the new home of NLW 24/7, which will return next week. And obviously this Wednesday I'm going to do like an NLW recap video, which hopefully will kind of get on your radar a little bit as to what to expect from NLW and how the storylines are heading into the next episode. I've also got NLW Turbo coming out very soon, this Thursday hopefully, with Ricochet and Shane Strickland. Just kind of trying to give some continuity, that's it, continuity to the product. I don't know, I'm having a look at the moment, because what I've got now, I've got a pretty good system where I'll plan for the week. I've got a couple of tasks written on my whiteboard, and that's something as well that motivates me, seeing it all written out, what segments I've got to film. At the moment, it says I've got 2 Austin segments to film, because he is going to be in the front row on NLW 101, and also the main event skit with the Ministry of Darkness I've got to film too. But yeah, we'll see what happens with that, honestly. So that's really about it for the NLW news. If I can kind of sum up what I'm kind of feeling this week, it's a little bit of a lack of motivation. Like, I was pretty lazy over the weekend, but I've hit the ground running now, and I'm really hoping I can get NLW 101 out for Saturday. Before we do the question of the week, the ending segment, just want to give some Patreon shout-outs, so I'm just going to get them up here. Thank you to everyone who's kind of bearing with me on the Patreon as well, because the past couple of months has been difficult to kind of get shows out, but I will be releasing a brand new NLW 24/7 show this month on Patreon, and you may be watching or listening to it on the Patreon feed at the moment. And I do want to kind of do more shout-outs and things like that, because it's just difficult with the NLW stuff to kind of put like a patron shout-out in that because of how far usually I do it in advance. But yeah, I'll just go through the patrons at the moment. On the free agent tier, we've got ES Productions, Outros World, and on the rising star tier, we've got Ryan McCarthy, PTW Animations, Cameron Joyner, Flynn Lampkin, Devin Dowlin, Cupid, Casey Hellschool, Brandon Furman, Brady Babcock, Anthony Hill. On the superstar tier, we've got Remy Montoya, and on the NLW champion tier, we've got John Cringegod and Clarence Morris III. Thank you all for your continued support on the Patreon. It really means a lot to me that you guys are kind of sticking with me, and I'm hoping that you're enjoying this podcast. And you know what? As a kind of question of the week segment, I'm not too sure how I'm going to do this. I might do it as... I'll probably keep it to one a week, actually, because I want to keep enough. Like, some of you guys did actually put some questions on the Patreon. Some of you did it through the Instagram, and some of you also did it in the comments of the last NLW Figs video. Like I said before, if you've got a question for me, leave it in the comments below, and I might choose it for a future question of the week segment. But we'll start off with, if I can get their actual question up, because it was kind of difficult to find it. I think I've got to go into my archive and kind of have a look at it. I need to kind of keep a log of these things. So if we can find first question of the week, we'll go with Davian Pickfed Lonely. If I've pronounced that wrong, I apologise. It's Cringe God on Patreon. Thank you for being a patron, and asked a bunch of questions here, but I will I'll answer one of them today, and then try and answer more in future episodes. And I'll try and go through a lot of you guys' questions in the next couple of weeks. So this first question that I'm going to answer for question of the week is: are you going to invite people in the near future on the podcast? And the answer to this is yes, I would like to, because I think I want to kind of spice it up a little bit. Maybe once a month I'll have a guest on. Maybe not for the whole podcast, but certainly for at least like 10... You know what, actually, maybe for the whole podcast, because it does seem like these podcasts only go about 25 to 30 minutes. And I think that that's enough time to kind of talk to someone. I just don't want to keep them waiting while I talk about NLW, because it might not be of interest to them. But I would like to get someone on to have kind of a back and forth about wrestling. Like I said, Figs31 has a pretty good podcast that you can listen to, as well as Nitro Figs as well has a decent podcast that I would recommend checking out. And there's a bunch of other ones I'm sure that I'm missing, but those are two that I've kind of had a little bit of a listen to recently, and they're pretty cool. And they've got guests on, and I think it will work well for this one, like once a month to kind of switch things up. Who I'm going to invite on, I don't know. I've got a couple of names in mind. Some of them are kind of more ambitious than others. Just for, I maybe just for like a quick chat, maybe like 15 minutes to talk about wrestling, and maybe interview them. In fact, maybe like, I don't know, even like a 10-minute segment where I just ask them questions and they can kind of get their point across and get their stuff across, where they can kind of promote themselves. I think that would be an interesting idea. So yeah, like, any suggestions as to who you want to see on the podcast, let me know in the comments below. But yeah, that's the question of the week. Thank you for asking it, Cringe God. I appreciate everyone who did ask a question, actually. And it's not that I'm not answering them, it's just that I'm going to be doing one a week, so I will get to them in due time. But thank you for your patience. If you've got any additional questions as well, you can leave them for me in the comments below, and I might get to them in a future segment. But that is going to be it for this second episode of the podcast. I hope you enjoyed. Like I said before, do comment down below what I can do to maybe even improve this podcast, or if there's anything that you liked about it that you want me to do more of. It's just, again, a new thing for me to get this out here and kind of talk at length about stuff, and it's difficult for me not to repeat myself. But NLW 101, fingers crossed, coming Saturday, if not the Saturday after. NLW Turbo returning this week. We're going to have a recap video too. We're going to have new stuff on this channel, the second channel, and some match announcements coming on the Instagram, so do check those out. And as I said before, if you're not already subscribed to the Patreon, go and subscribe for just $1 and you can get this podcast to download for free without ads, so it's well worth it. And just ask any other patron. You also get access to a bunch of exclusive content, such as early access to NLW 24/7 shows not yet seen on YouTube. Well, that's it from me. Thank you guys for listening to this podcast, and I'll catch you next week.